Everyone, thank you for joining JNF Future tonight for From the Courtroom to the Stage, Story and Song with Kayla Diamond. My name is Eliza Fagan, and I'm one of the JNF Future board members. For those who don't know, JNF Future is the young professionals group of JNF, the Jewish National Fund, catering to under 48, the under 40 age group. We plan a variety of events throughout the year, with all proceeds going to a project in Israel. Although we may have all moved indoors, there are so many ways to keep our minds stimulated and entertained, which is why JNF Future decided to offer webinars such as tonight's to our community. For tonight's webinar, please keep your microphones muted during the storytelling and performance. For any questions, please type your questions in the chat at any time, and our JNF staff, Ruthie Shanehouse, will moderate the discussion and Q&A at the end. And now, with great pleasure, I'm excited to present tonight's speaker, Kayla Diamond. About Kayla, Kayla was supposed to be a lawyer, but fate had a different plan. In 2016, while Kayla was attending law school, she got a call from Slate Music and Cadence Music Group that changed her life, a recording deal, which she left law school for. Thankfully, she made that move because it landed her a top 30 on the Canadian Billboard radio charts with her first single, Carnival Hearts. In addition, she's been nominated for the single at the Canadian Radio Music Awards. After Carnival Hearts, she released What You're Made Of, which earned her her first Canadian Billboard Top 10. Known for her bluesy tones and bold lyrics, Kayla's proved herself to be a prominent songwriter among the pop, indie, and dance world. Her catchy collaborations with Alex Schultz, Kaizo Armick, Vanillas, and Anivo have solidified her place in the dance top-lining world, earning her a steady radio play and recognition from the likes of Gareth Emery, Tiesto, Hardwell, and many more. In addition to her writing, Kayla's equal passion is developing, executing, executive producing, networking, and strategizing other emerging artists, many of which are set to release in 2020. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to Ruthie to get us started.
Great, thanks so much, Elisa, for that wonderful intro. So Kayla, that's really a crazy story. Why don't you start off telling us firsthand how this really all happened?
Yeah, you cut off for a second there, so I'm assuming that you gave me the floor for a second. So hi everybody, my name is Kayla Diamond, and yeah, this was an interesting story because I had always, my entire life the plan was like, I'm going to law school. I am a nice Jewish girl, gonna get a nice law school education, gonna have a nice kind of mundane, nice life. And so I worked really hard, and I was studying, and my entire undergrad was like devoted to going and getting into law school. And what's interesting is that I have a music background in the sense of, I went to and studied Royal Conservatory, piano and guitar, and my mom put me in like anything you can imagine. So she started with like piano, and then she found a choir that I got in, and I was actually a little too young to get into the choir, but my mom was like, no, you're gonna take her. And she like got me in there, and I kind of learned the foundations of music from an academic perspective, but I never fathomed that this would be a profession, like for me. I never thought of it. I never thought of myself as a professional level writer, singer, songwriter, or piano player. I just thought, okay, there's a million people who do this. Like, how can I possibly even compete? So I'm just gonna play it safe, do something safe, go to law school. And I had never written a song before, like ever. And so I finally had some time between undergrad and law school. This was the summer of 2015. And I had like a month off, and I kind of had, I sat at the piano a few times, and I kind of just like was playing some stuff that that wasn't learned, that I was kind of creating. And it gave me that freedom to sort of just create and not just replicate what my piano teacher was trying to make me do. And it was really cool. And so during that summer, I never had written lyrics before, but I was so inspired by, you know, somebody that I had met and like sort of fallen in love with. And I just one day just like sat at the piano, and out came just this like piano vocal. And it was crazy because and the song's called Crazy. And it just kind of blurted out of me as I was just sitting there at my parents' house. And this is it. I do recall the first time I set my sights on you, introduced by the flavor of the month. Took my breath away, and I wanted you to stay, but you went home to your loved one. Haven't seen you since that time, but I can't get you off my mind. To see your face on the street, my heart skips a beat. It's a night in February, and I can't stop staring at your eyes, looking into mine. Cause I'm crazy for you, baby. I crave your lips on my skin, and my chest pops from within. You always want what you can't have, babe. I need you so bad, I never tell you the truth. But baby, I'm in love with you. I'm not a jealous girl, but when I see you with her, I die a little inside. And I don't know why, I don't even know who you are, but there's a giant sky that gets deeper every time you're not with me. But it's not like you care. No, 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 it ain't fair for you to be playing with my heart like that. Cause I'm crazy for you, baby. I crave your lips on my skin, and my chest pops from within. You always want what you can't have, and babe, I need you so bad. I'll never tell you the truth, but baby, I'm in love with you. Even though it's just a dream, you're almost fictional to me. I would give everything I had just to be with you in reality. I'm crazy for you, baby. I crave your lips on my skin, and my chest pounds from within. You always want what you can't have, babe. I need you so bad, never tell you the truth. But baby, I'm in love with you. So that was crazy.
Kayla, that's a beautiful song. It's honestly a beautiful song. So wait a minute. So you were waiting to go to law school. You kind of just wrote this song. Was that the point? Did you think about going into music professionally at all right after that song?
Never. So what happened was I wrote this song. I like to say, I mean, if any of you on this chat speak Yiddish, I kind of breathed it out onto the piano, and like I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna throw it out into this universe and see what happens. And what's funny enough is that like my whole family, like I'm so thankful. A lot of them are watching right now. They're so supportive, and they were all kind of just like, wow, like hopefully, like my dad's always like, send it to Ellen DeGeneres, see what happens. So oddly enough, I put it out. This was, I wrote this in July of 2015. It's coming up on the 5th anniversary. And it's really hard to believe how drastically things can change just in such a small period of time. And I put it out onto YouTube. My friend made this like little video for his portfolio. He's he was a budding videographer, and now he's traveling the world shooting concerts and stuff. So he allowed me to contribute to his portfolio, and he took a video, and I just put it out there. And August came around, and it was time for me to go to law school. I was studying in Detroit, and I was living in Windsor, and I was going back and forth every single day. It's like a 10-minute drive from Windsor to my law school, and I was going under the water every day. And it was hard. It was, I was kind of isolated because I was one of very little Jewish people in Windsor and I didn't have a lot of friends yet because I hadn't met them, and I was just settling in. And so I put the song up in July. Somebody sends me, my sister-in-law was so sweet, and she thought of me because she knew I had a video out, and she sends me this link, and she goes, maybe you could submit Crazy to go into this contest. And it was called Slate Music's It's Your Shot contest, where they have about 1,000 submissions nationwide, and they sift through it, and they pick someone they would like to work with. So essentially, when you do get picked and when you win a very large recording deal in conjunction with Universal Music. So this was like a massive prize, and I kind of was just like, I have this song, so I'll just submit it, but like, I'm not doing anything with it. So I submitted in August, and I go back to doing my work, and I'm doing it for 6 months. I'm a first-year law student, really working hard at this, and kind of like really getting in the hang and really getting the groove on with it. And December rolls around, and I get a phone call. I totally forgot that I entered this, by the way, like completely forgot that I entered this. And I get a phone call from this unknown number, like this Toronto number. So I pick up, and I'm driving across the border, of course, get a call, pick up the phone. He goes, is this Kayla Diamond? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? He goes, this is Gary Slate from Slate Music. So, you won this competition that we were doing, and we want to sign you. And we want to sign you to our record label, to Universal. And me not remembering that I entered this contest at all, I was like, okay, you're joking. I don't know who you are. Are you prank calling me? So I called my dad right away, and I said, can you do me a favor? Could you just Google this idiot person who's calling me? I don't even know who this is. It's a made up name. Just Google who it is. And my father Googles it, and he goes, no. This guy's very much real, and this is maybe something you should consider. And so I say, okay, what an interesting thing. This is crazy. So I call him back, and I say, wow. And then I remember I entered this contest, and I say, wow, thank you so much for choosing me. How does this work? He goes, so you're going to leave law school? You're going to sign with us and leave law school behind? And I said, and I laughed at it, and I said, yeah, right, please. I'm never going to do that. So he goes, come in for a meeting when you're in town for winter break, which was actually the day that my winter break started. He had called me that I'd won. And I said, okay, I'll come and I'll have a meeting with you. Winter break rolls around, and I go to this massive building on St. Clair Avenue East. It's the Weston building, I don't know if many people know, but so I walk into this building, and I go up to this high-rise kind of suite, and I walk into this massive boardroom, and I see just a team of people sitting there saying like, Kayla, we're your team now. Like, this is, we want to make music with you. And I said, okay. And they were talking to me, and they were saying, what are your thoughts on leaving law school? And I said, no, I'm not leaving law school. So they said, what if we bring you back every weekend? So this was going to be the plan. They had got me a Via Rail pass to come in every single weekend from Windsor and make music with other writers over the weekend. But this was going to be so strenuous, because anybody who's ever studied law knows you can't do two things at once. Like, if you're going to study law, you need to make it your top priority. And so I said, I was just like, I can't, I'll try and do it, but I don't know how I can. So I went back to Windsor, And it's January and I'm sitting in property class and I'm looking at the board and it says like the rule against perpetuities and all of this. And I'm just zoning out because someone just told me a week before I have unlimited studio access now. I have, you know, everything to foster a musical career at my fingertips. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. And I just walk out of the classroom and I walk to the dean's office and I say to her, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have to be honest. I, over winter break, got signed to a record label and I have no idea what I'm going to do because I have this whole potential law career ahead of me. And then I have music, which is my passion. I have my reality and my dream, and they're both hitting me at once. And I have a very powerful decision to make. And the dean said to me like this, she goes, first off, I didn't know you can sing. That's really cool. And second, I want to tell you something. When I was your age, and I was 22 at the time, she says, I had the opportunity to go to the National Ballet in New York City, and, or whatever it's called. I think it was called the National Ballet. She said, and I turned it down to go to law school. And for 20 years, I've been wondering, what if? And she said to me, I don't want you to have that because I know what that feels like. So what I'm going to do for you right now is give you a leave of absence and take it and go for a year. And if it works, amazing. And if it doesn't work, come back. And I was like mind blown that she was so just accommodating like that and so excited for that kind of thing for me. And so I said, okay, but you're going to have to call my Orthodox Jewish parents and convince them that this is a very good idea. And she said, honestly, no problem. Get me on the phone with them. And so we had a 3-way call and she said, you got to do this for your daughter. And like, it wasn't even a question. My parents were just like, okay, no problem. You're coming home. And so I went home and I remember it was like it was definitely to this day one of the hardest decisions I have ever had to make. And from then I packed my car and I'm going back to Toronto, and I go to my parents' house and my father greets me with a big hug and a kiss. And he says, you're not going back there. You're not going back to law school. And I said, how could you say that? Like, you're so irresponsible. It's such an irresponsible. And it was funny because my sister, who's watching right now, called me like the minute I got signed. And she was like, yeah, you're not going to leave law school. Come on. You're not going to do that. Don't do that. It's irresponsible. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So we were of this mindset for a while. We were all on the same mindset. And then all of a sudden, the minute my dad said, you're not going back there, he said, like, within the next year or two, you'll have a song on the radio. And I was like, okay, well, that part's not that easy. Cause I don't know, many people don't really know how like the radio works or law school works. It's very, very uncommon for an artist who just got signed and is just developing to have a single on the radio, even within 5 years of getting signed or developing. This was like, it all kind of worked out in my favor. And what was interesting is my first writing session, I was kind of struggling with another thing. So I have this, I'm going to law school. I was going to law school. I was leaving my parents. I was leaving the nest, as you say. I made my parents empty nesters. And when I was on my own in law school, I was kind of, since I was alone, I had a lot of time to think and I had a lot of time to self-reflect. And I had come to the realization, I always knew, but this was the time where I was really sure of myself and confident of myself. And I had finally admitted to myself that I was gay. And I had grown up as an Orthodox Jew, and I love it. And I love the traditions, and I love my family. I love my community. But that kind of thing appears to be juxtaposing. Those two identities, being gay and Jewish, they're not really parallel. They're intersecting identities. And so I had struggled because as a child, you never want to hurt your parents. And in my head, I was like, oh no, I'm leaving law school and I have to tell them I'm gay. Two things. I was like, can't my parents catch a break? What is going on? And I had sort of just, I had come home from law school and it was February, and I was just writing in my diary, and I was like, I have to find a way to tell I was more nervous about my dad. I don't know, like I'm both nervous about both my parents, but I was just more nervous about, I feel like my dad's kind of like a softie. So I had written in my diary, and I came up with this kind of entry on how am I going to tell my dad that I'm gay. And he used to do this really cute little thing with me where every night when I was a baby, he would take me outside and we would look at the moon together. And he would just point at it and I would stare at it. And to me, I feel so much energy from like the moon, and I looked up at it and I realized that I can reach for that. This is called What You're Made Of, and it's taken straight out of my diary. These days seems like you're not the same, and I just wanna know what I can do to make that change. And I hate seeing you this way. We used to laugh about life and you would show me the moon. Say, baby girl, you'll be successful in whatever you do. And I still think about that today. Life's too short not to fill you with love. Don't you wait for this moment to pass us. Remember when you said to me, show them what you're made of, 'cause I raised you so. Tell you, you were meant to be someone. They won't know it's your love, but I raised you so. Tell you, you ain't never gonna give up. Little girl will always be the same. Still have your eyes and I will carry your name. And you are always on my mind. But time moves on and we move with it too. And daddy like it's in the way, but there's not much we can do. I know you're worried, but I'll be fine. Life's too short not to fill it with love. Don't you wait for this moment to pass us. Remember when you said to me, show them what you're made of, 'cause I raised you so. Tell you, you were meant to be someone. They won't know it's your love, but I raised you so. Tell you, you ain't never gonna give up. I wanna let you in as much as I can, but I'm afraid that if you saw me, you'd let go of my hand. So now I'm coming to you today with my heart on my sleeve. Will you stand by me or just get up and leave? Show them what you're made of, 'cause I raised you sometime. You were meant to be someone. They won't know it's your love, but I raised you so. Tell you, you ain't never gonna give up. Show them what you're made of. Show them what you're made of. You.
Wow, Kayla. That is.
that little muted audience over here.
So Kayla, you wrote that for your dad. You said like that was your inspiration behind it, right? So you know, he was clearly your number one fan back then, but you come from quite the dynasty of lawyers at Diamond and Diamond Law. So what was it like telling the rest of your family that you were, you know, leaving the family business?
Well, you know what's super interesting is that when I decided that I think this is the right move for me, I walked down to the lobby of my law school. I was still in school, and I'm like talking to my friends, and I'm like, guys, like this is crazy. Like, what should I do? What should I do? So then I called like my mother, and I called my parents, and then I called my sister-in-law, who is a very prominent lawyer, and I called her and I said, okay, what do you think I should do? And she said, go for it. Like, go. Like, if it doesn't work out, she said the same thing. Come back to law school, because it's funny how your perspective can shift. You think in your head, okay, I want stability, so I'm going to do something really safe. And then you go and you do something really safe. And then you wish that you were feeding your passion at the same time. But because your law career or whatever career anybody chooses is so consuming, you don't always have time to feed your passion. So in my head, I was like, it's worth it to take the time now to figure out how I can live the most fulfilled life. And that was the answer. It wasn't so clear at the beginning because it is a very, very uphill battle. And something just clicked. And what's so crazy is that What You're Made Of was the first song that I had ever written as a signed artist. And it was my second single. And what's crazy about it is that I never expected success from this song. I really didn't. It was really just a passion play for me. Like, I really just wanted to write it and like show it to my dad and run away and be like, I'm gay, bye. But it ended up resonating with so many people, and I'll tell you why. And I will say, like, I went to an amazing high school. I went to T. Ferris Base Yaakov in Toronto, and I had literally the best high school experience ever. And I was in plays, and I always used to sing with my friends, and we'd just like jam out. I had the most happy high school experience ever. And I know many Orthodox Jews and many Jews know that there is this kind of interpretation that women can't be singing in front of men, which translates to women can't really sing in public. So a woman shouldn't be on the radio. And my parents, particularly my mother, was kind of like hiding me in choirs. She was kind of like signing me up for choirs and being like, okay, we're not telling the school, but you need this for you. Because she was so good at recognizing, what each of her children needed. And she knew, I need this musical outlet, and I can't be silenced in terms of my voice, which was so true for me. And I'm so thankful for that. But what kind of hurts me a little bit at the same time is that so many of my friends in high school were so talented. They were dancers, they were singers, and they just never considered it as an option to pursue a career in that kind of thing. And they were so much better than I was, like so much better. And so when I put out What You're Made Of, I had them in mind too, because I really wished that somebody in their family or somebody that they respect told them, we don't need to care what anybody thinks. If you love something and you want to go for it, you should. And so I kind of was lending my dad out to people with this song. I wanted anybody to hear it and feel a massive hug and get that inspiration that they wouldn't otherwise get from anybody, from a father figure or a mother figure or just any kind of figure that they needed. And so anytime I heard that particular song on the radio, I always have to pull over when I hear my song on the radio, regardless. But that particular song, it resonated with me the most. And what's funny is I wrote that a few months before I wrote Carnival Hearts, which was my very first single. And Carnival Hearts came at an interesting time because I was actually at my parents' house for Shavuot. And this is about it's going to be the 4-year anniversary of me writing Carnival Hearts, this June 15th. So next week. And I remember still not having come out to my parents. And it was Shavuot, and it was the time of the Orlando shooting. And I took it of course, very personally, because it happened to a minority that I'm a member of. And I remember being very distraught over it. And I think at that point, my parents were kind of catching on, like, okay, something, like, she's taking this a little too personally. And we were walking on Shavuot, and we were walking back from my brother's house, I think. And my mother she's very sensitive and she's very intuitive, and she knows she can read me like a book. And she said, you took that a little too personally. And she flat out asked me, are you gay? And it was the hardest moment of my life. And I said, yes. And like, she just gave me a big hug. And it was like this weight was just lifted off my chest. And it was like, all my fears had been allayed. It was crazy. And I remember kind of when a person comes out, they feel particularly vulnerable. They feel like they're naked. And I felt like I was completely stripped of everything. Like, now you know all of me. And it's like, it's so vulnerable and it's so scary. It's one of the scariest things I've ever had to do. And I remember going home with her, like, to my parents' house, and I just kind of needed a little bit of an escape from reality, just for a second. And I went up to my room and I started humming, like, na 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 na, and I was like, that's cool. And I started writing, kind of just like, I kind of placed myself in a setting, and I was like, in this abandoned amusement park, we come to life when it turns dark. First, it was kind of like, in this abandoned amusement park. That's kind of how songs come together. And I knew I had a writing session that week with the same writers who did Celine Dion's last album. And I was like, I'm going to save this. I'm going to come in with an idea like this. I know exactly how to map it out. And it's the kind of song where you can envision the music video before you even see the music video. And that took me to a really different escape. And I don't know why I went to that escape. I just kind of have this, it's interesting. I have this obsession with abandoned things, and abandoned amusement parks in particular, I'm obsessed with. I think it's so cool to see something that with like New Orleans, like Six Flags New Orleans is like the ultimate cool place for me, because from Hurricane Katrina, it's a bunch of submerged roller coasters and they're just underwater and the whole park is abandoned. And you walk through it and you're just seeing something that was once so bubbly and kids playing and having fun. And you're kind of reminiscing about those times, but now you're in an abandoned place. It's kind of like, to me, it was kind of like a breakthrough from my childhood to, okay, now you're an adult. Now people know something about you that you were hiding for your entire life. And this is your transformation. And so I had gone to this writing session and I was like, okay, hear me out. In this abandoned amusement park. And they were like, okay. And we sat down, we started writing it. They thought it was the weirdest thing ever, but it came out as one of my favorite songs at the time. And this was a no-brainer as my first single. It's called Carnival Hearts. In this abandoned amusement park, we come to life when it turns dark. We're just carnival hearts, you and me. In this world of flashing lights, we are the lost ones in the night. Got our fingers intertwined, wild and free. A pathetic neon sign of my eye. Welcome to the midway. Welcome to our stomping grounds. Broken bottles, spilling dreams. I can almost hear the screams. Silence is the only sound. There's no one else but us around. Let's make some noise in this abandoned amusement park. We come to life when it turns dark. We're just carnival hearts, you and me. In this world of blessed lights, we are the lost ones in the night. Got our fingers intertwined, wild and free. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. We were black to mourn the loss. For the rebels without a cause. Life is just doing time. And baby, you're the boss. My psychedelic fun house soul. You're the only one I need to know. No one else but us around. Welcome to our stomping grounds. Let's make some noise in this abandoned amusement park. We come to life when it turns dark. We're just carnival hearts opening. In this world of flashing lights, we are the lost ones in the night. Got our fingers intertwined, wild and free. Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. Skip the line, get on the ride. Climb on board and hold on tight. It's our love, it's our life, you and I. In this abandoned amusement park, we come to life when it turns dark. We're just carnival hearts, you and me. In this world of flashing lights, we're the lost ones in the night. Got our fingers intertwined, wild and free. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't turn up the stairs. Ooh, ooh. Got carnival hearts. I hope people were singing at home. I hope people are like, what's that song? I hope people knew it.
No, it's a great song. I mean, I personally still hear it on the radio sometimes and I love it.
Thank
I'm
you.
actually kind of curious now because Kayla, you wrote those songs a while ago. And you're still writing now. Has your sound changed much since you first started writing?
What's super interesting, a lot of recording artists do this thing where they, especially in the pop world, we follow trends. And I made a big mistake last year. I followed the trend of what's going on the radio instead of what's in my heart and what is relevant to me. And so I've been like just writing now. I going back to what's current and relevant to me, and just been writing like everything and anything, because I write for a lot of TV, I write for a lot of films. So I don't write for just myself, and a lot of my time is taken up by working with other artists and developing their sound and doing A&R for other record labels. A&R is artists and repertoire, and developing artists and developing their sound, getting their songs ready for radio. So I've been fortunate to be doing that too.
Yeah, very cool. Is there maybe something you'd like to play for us right before, I know people might have some questions, but before we do the Q&A, anything you can share with us?
I can show you something I've been cooking up. We all have those moments where we think in our head, I should have listened to my friends, right? Like, it's such a good call. Like, now I'm at the end of it and I should have listened to them. And a couple years ago, came out of a not so great relationship. And then afterwards, I said, I should have listened to my friends. This is it. Parked outside your house, where we used to love to fight. I still think of you when I'm driving by at night. Bittersweet, but mostly bitter. Memories like poison liquor. No, I wish I never tasted you. I should have listened to my friends. They told me it was gonna end right when it started. Love makes you crazy, love makes you numb, love makes you think that you out the window. I should have listened to my friends. I wonder how you're doing now. Are you still a bandit on the run in this glass town, breaking hearts just for fun? You wrap me up around your finger, got me good, but let it linger. No, I'm still not rid of you. I should have listened to my friends. They told me it was gonna end right when it started. Love makes you crazy, love makes you numb, love makes you think that you out the window. I should have listened to my friends. I should have listened to my friends. They told me it was gonna end right when it started. Love makes you crazy, love makes you numb, love makes you think that you out the window. I should have listened to my friends.
Wow. Very exciting. What are your plans with that one? I'm a very powerful message there. So do you have any plans for that particular song?
Actually, I'm in talks right now with a couple French DJs, and it's may or may not within this year coming out on a French record label to French radio in Europe. So, yeah.
Ooh, in Europe, no big deal. That's actually very cool.
Yeah, it's my job is really fun. It lets me do a lot of cool things, and I'm really fortunate, and I'm really happy to be doing it.
We actually got our first question in for you. So the question is, what was it like to hear your song on the radio for the first time, and where were you?
Okay, so I had been notified like a few weeks before that I'd been chosen for iHeartRadio's Future Star. And what it is like, it's a campaign that they feature a new artist. And it was for the month of July, and I knew that it was going to start on July 1st. And I listened to the radio all day, just like sitting there in my kitchen in my apartment in downtown Toronto. And I'm hearing all of a sudden, this is 99 Virgin Radio, Kayla Diamond, Carnival Hearts. And all of a sudden, I just start crying my eyes out, just crying. And I'm hearing my voice on the radio because it's all I could have ever imagined. I was like looking at 16-year-old Kayla and wishing I could just high five her. It was awesome. And it was the best feeling I've ever had in my life.
Very cool. An interesting question here. So did you ever feel pressure to be known as a gay pop star? And I guess just adding on to that, also a Jewish one.
That's a very good question. So my identity is a Jewish woman and a songwriter and a writer. And what I make conscious of is that my sexuality is not my identity. It's a part of who I am, but it's not what represents me as a person. So I do want to be my goal is to not be a gay artist, but an artist who happens to be gay. So we can just normalize this, because nobody ever died from being gay. And I also, I also really would like to, like, my sort of cause is to amplify gay voices in the Jewish community. And so when I get people messaging me on Instagram or Facebook saying, wow, thank you for being so like public about being gay and Jewish, and, embracing your orthodoxy and embracing your love of Judaism, that to me is like, wow, I've accomplished my goal.
Mm. Very, very important messages to be sharing, especially now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, an interesting one. So back to law school for a second. So whatever happened with that, are they still holding a place for you? Are you planning to go back?
That is definitely from my mother. No, so they, because the 3 years is over, I would have to reapply, but I have some great connects that can get me into the law school I came from.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, retirement career maybe.
Retirement career, why not?
Yeah, so what's your plan for the future in music? Is there some sort of long-term ideal? Because I know you are starting to get into the producing game. So is that kind of where you're leaning to?
Well, it kind of came out of the blue. I started off as, I'm an artist, and then record labels started reaching out to me to write for their artists. And I said, oh, this is a great idea. I would love to do that. And so I started writing and developing and producing other projects. And it's really cool when you get behind the scenes, because you don't have to go on tour and perform those songs. You just get to watch them play your songs and still be a part of it. But my artist project has sort of taken like a sidecar to my other work in the music industry, which is I actually just signed on with Higher Rain Music Group and Graffiti Alley and Hard Music Design, which is music for film and television. I don't want to bore anybody, but there's a lot you can do with music. And if you're not dipping your feet into everything, or at least trying to dip your feet into everything, you're not doing it right.
And then, so I guess kind of a overlapping two-parter here. So if you could collaborate with one or two top artists, who would they be? And if those same artists have influenced your music now, or what your biggest influences have been during your period as an artist?
So I don't even have to think about this one. It's Lana Del Rey. I am obsessed with her. She's the reason I sat down at the piano that day when I wrote Crazy, because she just, her lyrics, her poetry is just so impactful. And I wanted to do something for other people the way I felt about Lana. I wanted somebody to feel that about my lyrics. Oh, and also Bob Dylan, because the first CD I ever had, my sister gave me this boombox that she got from her wedding, and there was Highway 66 Revisited. It was like a CD in there. And I would go downstairs where the boombox was and just sit in the room. There was no cell phones. I didn't have any cell phone. I would just sit on the bed and listen to the whole CD from top to bottom and know the entire thing. So I think lyrical influence, it's definitely impacted me somehow, because I was only 10.
Only 10 when you had your first inspiration. That's big. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And yeah, so actually very curious. So DJ, Kayla Diamond, what's kind of like a normal day for you throughout your process and everything? Do you get, fangirls hounding you down the street? Are you stuck? I guess you're stuck at home now. What are you doing all day?
Well, in quarantine, I've actually been busier than I've ever been. Thank God. I have a home studio. I just moved into a new house, and so I've been doing virtual writing with people across. So I've been working with people in Nashville, people in LA. A typical day, like tomorrow, I'm writing for a Ford commercial. I just got a pitch. Ford needs a new commercial, a soundtrack for their commercial, and I'm collaborating with some people from LA and Nashville, and we are going to pitch them ideas. So that usually takes an entire day. So I'll usually wake up in the morning, have a call with my manager, hang out with Talia, who's my fiance. And then we usually start our day around like 11, 12, and then it could go till 11 at night.
Oh, so 11 at night. That's a long day.
Well, the writing starts at 11 because it's usually we're doing with people three hours behind. So we have to give them ample time because they're in LA.
So when do you sleep if your writing starts at 11?
Never. Literally never.
Oh, wow. So I guess it doesn't sound like you're taking a break anytime soon.
No, I would like to take a break maybe before my wedding.
And when is that? Is that coming up soon?
Cross your fingers for October if we can have crowds.
Okay, we'll keep them crossed. I'm just gonna wait and see if we have maybe one or two more questions while we still have you. So if anyone wants to throw that in, but is there anything you feel like you also want to share with our audience tonight? About your journey that you didn't think you mentioned before.
I think I covered like every single base. I think just a lot of people. I think what I want people to know about being a radio artist and an artist is that people hear music on the radio and go, who is this girl? She came up overnight. And they don't realize that it could take years and years and years before a song gets to radio or even gets released. And the process is a patient process. And I write the average songwriter writes about 1,000 songs a year and probably releases 3. And so that's just a little tidbit about behind the scenes. And I always tell people when they're asking me, when's your next song coming? I want to patience. Always have patience with somebody in the music industry.
So speaking of, are there any dates we should keep our calendars marked for? Anything being released in 2020?
You will see. I can't say yet.
Okay. Well, look, we don't have too many questions left, and we're almost out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much, Kayla, for taking the time to share your incredible story and amazing songs with us. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. On behalf of JNF, I just wanted to say stay healthy, stay safe, and be well.
Thanks so much.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.